What's going on, guys? Welcome to another episode of V486 Season 2. With me, as always, I have Blue Spade.
Yeah. Well, this episode had a lot of expository dialogue concerning certain characters that we know and didn't know much about prior. Of course, it takes place, I think it takes place maybe a few months after the last episode. I keep losing track on the
Sometimes
dates of,
in the episodes they'll have the year, like the month and the year. I don't remember if they did that in this episode. So I mean, I'm kind of assuming. I don't know. Maybe it took place either weeks or days after the event in the last one.
Yeah. Well, it mostly starts off with Shin and the others reuniting after, I guess, after some time away from each other. So. They're back together. Well, the first thing, of course, is like this funny scene where Shin ends up running into, Frederica, who's like still half asleep. And it was this like little comedic scene where he just blatantly, I guess he somehow ends up tossing her into a couple of his friends, to try to help dress her.
Yeah.
But they end up. Eventually, they end up having like a debriefing with their Lieutenant Colonel Wenzel, talking about them operating these new. I forgot what the name of these new.
The Reglaves or something. The
Reglaves.
The actual name, it's just basically it's a new prototype of mech that she's trying to, I guess, get them in a way to test out. And she wanted Shin's opinion on the on how they operate. But yeah, Shin basically has while he says it has good maneuverability, it has a few flaws, and it's not up to his standards, supposedly. So yeah, but I mean, based on what we've seen, it seems like they're definitely much better than obviously what the 86 were using, which were pretty much as they say, they're pretty much like their coffins, because they're supposed to die in them. Whereas these are probably supposed to, these are obviously much more sophisticated.
Yeah, because they're more advanced in their technology, and they can perform much better than the previous models that they always drove while they were still 86 at the time. But most of the meat of this episode happens at much of the second half, where Frederica ends up visiting Shin in his room and decides to finally talk about what was it, Kiria Nozen, who she mentioned at the end of one of the episodes, I think a couple episodes prior. It's revealed that, of course, Kiria is part of the Nozen clan, who also reveals that Shin is also a distant relative of the Nozen clan as well. But she states that, she doesn't believe that Kiria and Shin are really direct relatives, but I would say maybe a distant relative, I guess. But she reveals a lot of her history with Kiria in particular, how she saw him as an older brother, and I guess while she was empress of the previous Giada Empire, Kiria, I would say, was more of a her protector, and then he's been protecting her for years until the war eventually took his entire family and pretty much nearly drove him mad near the end of the war.
Yeah, and of course, as we know, Kiria is now part of the Legion.
Yeah, and Frederica states that she blames herself for what happens to Kiria pretty much after once the Empire fell, and she was taken into the Federacy. I guess Kiria didn't take a liking to this, and eventually, it's not really shown as to what happened, but I'm guessing they'll eventually show what exactly happened to Kiria, which turned him into a Legion drone or something like that.
Yeah, she also says that I guess technically the Federacy was her enemy, And she, because she was the nobility of this other empire, and the Confederacy had assumed they had defeated her, and they didn't. I guess they didn't know exactly what she looked like. So Ernst, I guess, knowing who she was, took her in, and that's why she was basically like acting as technically like his adopted daughter. We kind of get like we get these like very brief glimpses as to what happened, but it's like a blink and you'll miss it scene. So I kind of hope they actually show some of the things that happened to her, because like we only get to hear it from her and we don't actually get to really see it. So I'm kind of hoping we'll get maybe like more of maybe like a flashback scene or something in one of the next episodes.
Yeah, I mean it really felt like a really quick episode, to be honest, because we didn't get any action in this episode. It was just mainly just
it was a very dialogue heavy episode.
Yeah, it's just like all we got was just Shin and the others looking into the new units that they'll be piloting, and then much of the meat of this episode was just Frederica talking to Shin about Kitty in particular. So
I will say, I like, even though it was a dialogue heavy episode, I like how some of the scenes were directed. Like the scene between Shin and Frederica in particular, where like while they're talking, there's just like different things kind of happening like in the background. Like there's this flashing red light that keeps going off, and then there's like they focus on what looks to be like I guess like a moth caught in a spider's web, and I guess it's supposed to be some form of symbolism. So I kind of like how like it's not just kind of a typical reverse shot where we're just seeing Shin and talking and then just go back to Frederica talking. There's actually more things happening. So they at least managed to keep it somewhat interesting.
Yeah, it was a good episode. I mean, I do like the fact that they do a lot of this expository dialogue detailing their history of the people that they met before, and I'm guessing it'll eventually hint at a showdown between, I guess, Legion Kyria going up against Shin and his unit soon. Same ways like Shin ended up fighting his brother at the end of the last season.
It's reminding me a lot of that. I can't help but feel like it's going to be a very similar kind of confrontation.
Yeah, but finally at the at the end credit scene, we finally get to see Lena again. I guess she's planning another attack on the Legion, but I've noticed you notice she always keeps that board with which I assume to be the faces of the current drawings of the current 86, and it looks like obviously it looks like some members ended up already got killed at some point.
Yeah, because I assume that maybe we'll have an episode where we might actually get filled in on what's been happening on her end all this time.
Yeah, because we pretty much been looking into Shin and his group for at least at a long period of time, for at least several months. But I'm guessing once they recap on what happened with Lena, it'll bring us back into time, back when Shin Shin and his group was joining the Confederacy army.
We'll get
to see what happens.
Yeah, we did also hear from Shin earlier in the episode about some kind of Legion attack. Maybe that what we're being shown on the major side of things is maybe she knows about the Legion attack. So maybe it's something she might also take part in.
Yeah, and eventually, I think it'll lead into a confrontation between Shin and his group. Well, I guess I would say fighting alongside the members of the 86, which they'll eventually cross paths soon, depending on how much we'll get to learn about the new version of the 86 that's currently working alongside Lena.
Yeah, I feel like that's going to happen fairly soon, based on what we're seeing. But like I said, I think there might be maybe one or two episodes where we get to see what's been going on from Elise's perspective.
Yeah, I like this method better than how they handled it in the last season, because it kind of felt off at several points whenever it had to switch between Shin's group, and then the other half had to switch between in Lena's perspective at times.
Yeah, it definitely felt like the first like in the beginning of the season, it was more focused on her. And I mean, like it focused more on her than as opposed to Shin and everybody else. But I like how in these past few episodes we've gotten much more focus on him and all the other characters, just to give them a little bit more development.
Yeah.
But like I said, I would also like to see the kind of character development that Lena has gone through ever since what happened. But yeah, other than that, I don't really have too much else to say about this episode. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
Yeah, it just felt really quick when I watched this episode, but I still like the dialogue heavy aspect of it.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting dialogue. At least it's not, like you said, yeah, there was some expository things, mostly having to do with the mechs, but I didn't really mind that so much. Yeah,
I really do feel like this is building up to a confrontation between Shin and Kiria eventually.
Yeah, it seems like he's, I guess, supposed to be more of, I don't know if you'd say the villain of this part of this story arc in particular, but it seems like, yeah, it might be what he's building up to be, I guess. The only thing I kind of hope we get more of with that is that we maybe get more about him as a character, because with the conflict between Shin and his brother, we actually got to see the the flashbacks with him and his brother, so we got to get more of a feel for who his brother was. So it was more impactful when they had a confrontation, when they had that confrontation. And I mean, like, the thing that's different with this too is that it's not really a conflict between Shin and this person in particular. It's more, this feels more like, it's more about Frederica than it is about Shin. Shin's basically just, trying to do her a favor in a way, by getting rid of him. But I feel like when this confrontation does happen, Frederica should, I don't know, I wouldn't say like obviously she can't fight or anything, but I feel like she should play some kind of a role in the conflict, because like I said, it's not just about Shin. Like it's mainly something to do with her. So it kind of would feel more impactful if she had some kind of involvement in this, because as we know, this is something that really has to do with her and not so much it has anything to do with Shin.
Well, she isn't. Well, if we remember in the last episode, she looked like she was in the same sort of communication like Lena was in the first season. So eventually,
we also know she can read people's minds. So maybe they have some kind of psychic communication with each other or something like that. Because we also, I mean, Shin can kind of do something similar as well, where he can hear the voices of the Legion. So he could hear his brother's voice when he was, when he was fighting with him. So maybe, Frederica will be able to hear his voice, and also maybe in a way communicate with him when they're fighting. So maybe that would be how she, in a way, contributes. Because, obviously, like I said, she can't fight, so that's all she can really do.
Yeah. I mean, if you remember, Frederica mentioned that but before Kiria was taken in by the Legion, he pretty much went insane at one point, because his entire family was killed during the war. So I guess like if Shin and the others end up fighting Kiria will pretty much go into berserker mode once they fight him. I'm not sure. That's
kind of similar to what happened with his brother too, where he also seemed to have gone insane before he became part of the Legion. So it is, there's a lot of similarities already with Shin's brother and Kiri.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, unlike in the first season where it's mostly Shin's personal mission to go after his brother. Well, this time he's doing the exact same thing just for another person.
Yeah. But yeah. So that all being said, until next Saturday, we will see you all next time.